But it's npr.org, and it's Web3 Internet Jargon or Future Vision. And when I say you didn't write the blog for once, it's because for whatever reason, Task, I don't know what it is you do, but you've featured in every single week of Community Token Talk now, and it's not because we tried to feature you. We actually go out of our way to avoid you, but you always write great content, and we're like, shit, we've got to include this again. So you always come up in our show, which is cool as fuck. But yeah, so this is one that you didn't write for once. It's one that you've linked. So just tell us a little bit about Web3 Internet Jargon of the Future Vision, which is an NPR blog.
Well, I put that up because, quite frankly, and it actually tied to my post this morning, or I wrote a post this morning about, just the metaverse and how that's so hyped right now. The metaverse is, you're seeing that term everywhere, and people don't know what it is because it really doesn't have a definition. And quite frankly, the way it's being hyped, you see all these articles and these videos, top 5 meta stocks to invest in today. And it's like, are you serious? This thing's like 20. I mean, we're 15 years away from Ready Player One, let alone to what a lot of people ultimately envision the metaverse. And there's so much that has to advance in terms of our communication systems, our edge computing, our processing. All this stuff has to advance light years ahead of where we are now. But that said, I think one of the components we can talk about, and it's a much better moniker, it's not being hyped, is Web 3.0, and you guys obviously discuss this a lot, which, by the way, is a lot more than just the tokenization, of Reddit, or, Dorsey talking about decentralizing Twitter or having tipping on Twitter. I mean, Web 3 is huge. It's the next iteration of the internet, whereas I guess you could say the metaverse is like the evolution 3 or 4 more degrees down the road. And the reason why I think this is important is because the present internet is company driven, it's siloed, it's taken the freedoms away. And what Web3 is a process. Yes, we're talking and focusing a lot on social media and integrating crypto and blockchain into it, but it's a lot more than that. It's also talking about what is going to happen and Web3, by the way, is going to be like a 15-year process in and of itself. How are we going to decentralize away from the ISPs? How are we going to integrate maybe mesh networks? How are we going to get away from Apple Store and Google Play and get these apps where we can just download apps without anybody's permission? All this push towards a digital world. Dan mentioned, I don't know if it was on air or maybe it was before we came on air, but talking about a digital ID system and a reputation system and some of these other things that are not tied to centralized entities controlling. I mean, what we mentioned before, log in with Hive. You own your account. You want to log in there, they can ban you from the site, but they can't take your account away. They can't take your wallet away. They can't destroy your data. You control your data. So that's what the main premise is, and this is all Web 3.0 stuff. And I think instead of talking this metaverse stuff, and I think we're better off on Web 3.0 because Web 3.0 is being designed today. It's right around the corner. It's happening. We're starting to see the foundation of it. And yes, this will be a part of the metaverse, just like the Ready Player One immersive VR full haptic suit will be part of the metaverse. And then there's other aspects of the metaverse that are just far beyond what any of us could even dream about. But Web3, which I view as the convergence of our physical, digital, and biological lives, which if you look at the physical and the biological, what is that all feeding into? Data. And data is not disputed. What is disputed, or what is questioned, is who's going to own and control that. And if I control it, a lot of these futuristic technologies I love. If Mark Zuckerberg's in control of it, that's very dystopian in my opinion. And so this is where Web3, if you can understand the foundation of blockchain, cryptocurrency, data ownership, data control, you decide who gets access to it. That opens up a whole host of things over the next couple of decades, as opposed to these centralized entities that have controlled our accounts, controlled basically our digital lives. Twitter banned Dan for a year. There went an aspect of his digital life was just wiped
Yeah.
away, completely erased, like he never existed. And the more powerful these technologies get, the more our lives are going to be digital versions of ourselves. And then you start getting into avatars and AI and all that stuff that they're talking about. If a company can just erase that, and thankfully for Dan, it was just his digital, it was his tweets. What if he had NFTs in a wallet tied to that account?
Exactly.
All wiped out, and there goes, well,
Well, that's going to be the that's going to be the Reddit.
Son.
That's going to be the Reddit version, because as far as I'm aware, Reddit's coming out with communities and tokens behind the communities, right? In a similar way to what Hive has, except there's going to be some kind of centralized regulation there, and they're not going to let some random community that they don't agree with just pop up and start doing that. So whereas. See, this is the discussion. I feel like the elites of kind of like a year or two ago, they sat around a table and they were like, fuck, we're losing control of the banking system. Bitcoin's decentralized. How do we control Bitcoin, right? And they're going to try. Maybe they'll succeed eventually. Who knows? But I doubt it. There's a big war going on to stop that from happening. And now they're looking around and going, holy fuck, double fuck. This is the decentralization of the web, of the data, right? The base layer of the data is what you just described. And can we decentralize the ownership and control of that? And then it's like, is that why Zuckerberg's come out with an early release of Meta to try and get that into the market as a first mover advantage, to get people concentrating on that before the likes of us and Deluxe and other metaverse type decentralized apps come out with their apps, because it really will be the end of their control over the data. Web3 is a massive threat to that, as long as it's done on decentralized foundations, which meant much of it isn't, unfortunately, from the blockchain world, but there are some ones. Then this represents massive loss of value for the elites and the establishment. So, there's a lot of crazy stuff going on in the world right now, and the more that I see, and the more I see how important this technology is going to be, the more I realize that maybe these guys were ahead of the game, and they're like, shit, we've got to release Meta early to at least get it out there, to try and get people sucked into it before these bloody blockchainers come along and decentralize the whole thing.
Well, my view on that, first off, with Zuckerberg, that was just a misdirection, because he's under a lot of heat for a lot of the crap that's going on with Facebook, especially out of the EU. So he needed to get some of the heat, and they had the whistleblower. He needed to distract people, and that's a perfect thing. Quite frankly, I don't think any of these companies are really behaving any different than they were before, and that's where I think this Meta is just really a hype cycle, because it's like, if you like Microsoft, and I like their HoloLens, I like some of the projects they're doing, their $3,000 headset HoloLens, so it's enterprise. But, if you liked Microsoft 3 months ago, you'll still like Microsoft. I mean, I wouldn't buy Microsoft because they said, well, we're in the metaverse too. But I think you're absolutely correct. There is a threat, and I will go one step further, and Dan exemplified it because he talked about HBD and what he's doing in the game. DeFi, right now we look at DeFi as, well, this is the decentralized version of finance, and finance is a different industry than social media, than gaming, and all this stuff. To us, it's no different, because DeFi is going to be integrated into everything. It's going to be in gaming. It's in social media. Web3 is taking DeFi and saying it's not a separate industry. It's going to be interwoven in everything.
Yeah. It's a combination of all of them, isn't it, really? It's a natural interwoven.
So now try to stop that and regulate that, you assholes. Good luck.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, actually.
Yeah, you both said it well. It's I break it down simple as you need a blockchain to make the account and the data immutable, so nobody can tamper with that, and then also to build the incentive layer for off-chain data, which is endless, because you use a proof of access system, so it's a sharing economy approach. And what that allows is the decentralization of the data, which then removes Google, removes all of these big data centers. But then you take that a step further, because with incentivization, you can do anything. You can have somebody run their own internet tower, infrastructure, anything. And the real world can be incentivized by the digital world. So if you have an immutable, and that's why what bugs me about Lightning Network in terms of the whole bring your node mentality, you have to have a decentralized, immutable value distribution method that can be very fast, very cheap, and it has to be decentralized. It has to have that incentive to run. You can't expect people to run the infrastructure. Once you have that, it's over, and they're going to crumble by the wayside, and it's going to be like screeching witches trying to get you to use them when you don't need them, because we all have terabyte hard drives and we all have more internet than we need, and the sharing economy is very ripe to take off.
And it's super exciting, whatever it is. And the thing to me is, whatever we're going to do, whatever this looks like afterwards, the guarantee, this isn't a guarantee, but pretty much guaranteed at this point is this current system is not, it's either going to have to implement Web3 into itself and just adapt, or it's not going to exist. You know, there's no, it's not going to win. That's the thing. Like, it's going out for an all-out win right now, and it's going out for all-out control. And it's just going to keep banging its head against a brick wall once this technology becomes mature. I don't know what they're going to do to make it illegal, maybe. I don't know. But it's once you get that, you know, we were talking before about the kind of turbocharger effect where people are just incentivized to keep building for free. You know, I don't see how they're going to stop it. They've got nothing like that. They've got nothing to compete against that apart from guns, you know?
Well,
those guns are incentivized.
I've written about this.
Sorry, Task. We can create incentivized gun NFTs on the blockchain. So there you go. Beat that, motherfuckers.
Well, one thing I've written about is the end of the nation state, and I firmly believe by 2100 the nation state will be gone. And what you guys are referring to right there is just brick by brick, we're showing we're lessening the abilities or the areas that these entities have control over. And when you look, I mean, Dan mentioned torrents, and I've used this example. Yeah, they could slam Napster, but the U.S. government, for all their guns, for the NSA, for the CIA, for all their money, for everything they have, they cannot stop the illegal downloading of music.
Right.
They cannot stop it.
Yeah,
So
those damn pesky teenagers.
How are they going to stop cryptocurrency, peer-to-peer transactions? How are they going to stop me sending you, Matt, value from my wallet, Hive wallet, to your Hive wallet, with nothing in between?
Bro, don't worry. Taskmaster, no one's going to stop you from sending value to me, mate. Don't worry about that.
What's your Hive account? I don't remember it.
Oh, God, yeah, it's a complicated one.
You're on my follow list.
I'll be double checking that later.
So, you know, that's just where I mean, everybody talks about the banks. We talk about all these other industries, and it's like, why do people think these nation state as a form of governance is going to be excluded from this? They're being attacked too.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.